I thought Micro Four Thirds was supposed to be dead by now. What happened? Well, if you're on the internet or YouTube or whatever much, no doubt you've heard people proclaim the death of Micro Four Thirds, that it's done, it's over, it's dead, it's going away, its demise is imminent. Everyone, not everyone, lots of people have made that proclamation, and especially regarding Olympus, where Olympus was sold from Olympus to OM Digital Solutions. Now that's what it is, and a number of people have basically said that'll be the end of them. They won't make it. And the only thing I can respond to that, I think, is to quote the words of Mark Twain, who said, "Reports of my death are greatly exaggerated." And I think that's true. If you look at the state of Micro Four Thirds right now, it's not doing as badly as everyone thought. And really, some would say it's doing quite well. So, let's talk about that. What is the state of Micro Four Thirds? Well, there's awards, there's data all over the place that you can look at that, shows market share around the world, different countries, whatever. And yes, in a lot of those reports, Micro Four Thirds is way down the list in terms of market share worldwide or in some other countries. But there's one award, and this award I think is very important. There's one award called the BCN Awards, and the BCN Awards are point of sale data from Japan. In other words, cameras sold in Japan, how are they doing? And like I say, it comes strictly from point of sale data. So on those BCN Awards, Olympus, now OM Digital Solutions, has been in the top 3 for the past 13 years. I know some of you are going, what? No, where? I haven't seen that. Well, I'll put a link in the description below. There's a link to some of their data. I'll also link the Japanese website. You'll have to use a browser like Google Chrome that can translate it, because it's only in Japanese. But if you look at the data for mirrorless cameras, not cameras as a whole, but mirrorless cameras, interchangeable lens mirrorless cameras, you'll find that Olympus is, in this year, in the top 3. They're number 3 behind Canon, who's number 2, and Sony's number 1. Sony and Canon, if you look at past years, Sony and Canon tend to flip-flop a little bit. But the Olympus, now OM Digital Solutions Corporation, has been in the top 3 for the last 13 years. And for a number of those years, especially around 2012, 13, 14, they were number 1 for several years running. They were strong. When mirrorless cameras first came out, they were on top of it. So why is that important? Well, I can tell you, being half Japanese, my mother was Japanese. Some of you may have already picked up on that in some of my videos. But I can tell you, growing up with a Japanese mother and understanding and learning about their culture and their pride as a people, that this is huge to the Japanese. To a Japanese manufacturer, to be in the top 3 in their own country is huge. It's massive. For them, it's the stuff that keeps them going. It keeps them striving to do better and work harder, because that's national pride. That's hometown pride. Just like here in America, if an American manufacturer is doing really well here in America, that's really what the people in America see. We don't really look at so much the rest of the world. It's not as much in our minds. Now, it's important to the manufacturer because that means revenue, and world market share is important. And the dynamics are different. America's huge, so if we make something in America and we're successful, we don't need the other countries as much. But Japan's a small country, comparatively, though they have a lot of people. And so their sales in America and Europe and other places is important to them. It's a big deal. And I'm not saying that Olympus is doing better as a whole than all the other, most of the other companies. I'm just saying that those BCN awards are very important to the Japanese manufacturers. They're a big deal. And to be in the top 3 solidly for 13 years, I think says a lot about, OM Digital Solutions. And, OM Digital Solutions has, a lot of people really were worried when Olympus was sold, the camera division was sold and became OM Digital Solutions. A lot of people thought, no, that's going to be the end of it. They just won't survive this very long. And here's what's interesting. those BCN Awards, their rating in the BCN Awards never dropped when they changed. Didn't change at all. Didn't hurt a thing. And they've stayed in the top three. They were in the top three when they were Olympus, and they're still in the top three as OM Digital Solutions. So there's some. But if you look at Olympus's website, I guess I'm talking about Olympus maybe more particularly than say Panasonic, though they're both Micro Four Thirds, because Olympus has gone through this big change, and Olympus does not have a strong following in the video industry or market, where Panasonic does. So this is why I think a number of people said, Olympus just isn't going to make it. But Olympus has really worked at kind of reinventing themselves as some would say, an outdoor company that makes cameras, rather than a camera maker that makes cameras that people like to use in the outdoors. So they've really focused on the outdoors. If you look at that, and if you look at their philosophy of business in general, you see some things that you don't see from the other manufacturers. One of the things I love about their philosophy, and they still cling to that philosophy that I think I'm gonna mispronounce this, is Mayatani, or the Japanese inventor, the guy that worked for Olympus that invented the OM1 and the OM system cameras. And I think the Pen F, the original half frame, was his work too. Mayatani, I think it is. Anyway, they cling to a lot of that philosophy still in terms of keeping the size and the focus of the camera on being something that you can take anywhere with you and shoot pictures, and it's not cumbersome. And that was Mayatani's big thing, is that if you have a camera with you because it's small and light and capable and it produces great results, you'll use it to take pictures. Otherwise, you might not even bother to carry a camera because it's too big and heavy and bulky. And so one of the things that's on their website, I really love this statement. It says, "We don't run in the race, never have, and never will." And that means they're not really worried about what everyone else is doing in terms of market share and all that. They're focused on what they're doing and how their company is doing as a company. They're not in it to win some race against other manufacturers. I think that's important. The other thing that's on their website that's really important is this phrase you see called "it's in our nature." And that is all about their focus on the outdoors. So they're really focused on wildlife photography, birding, macro, travel photography, and even they say landscape. Now, I don't know that that's a big thing for them yet, but basically they're after anything that is outdoor related. And I think their system is a great fit for that, and I think it's really smart for them to focus in that direction. I mean, if you look at their equipment, and from a pragmatic point of view, if I'm going to, let's say I want to buy new camera system, digital camera system, and I start looking at all the various choices from full frame down to the Micro Four Thirds, there are several things that are important. Number one is economy. Our economy is horrible right now. People are struggling to have enough money. So if I can spend less and have a system that's very capable, produces the pictures I need, why wouldn't I do that? The other thing is, and we've gone back to this a million times, I think everyone has, size and weight. If I can pack more gear that weighs less in a smaller space, and if I'm traveling or if I'm doing stuff in the outdoors, it's a huge bonus. So they've really focused their efforts in that outdoor market, and their popularity in that market, in that outdoor market, I think is really growing. The camera system from Olympus and from Panasonic, the Micro Four Thirds in general, is just more economical. It's more portable. It just fits that outdoor lifestyle. Because here's the thing. A lot of the people that are doing this stuff in the outdoors don't consider themselves photographers. They don't. They are focused on hiking or mountain climbing or backpacking or travel or mountain biking or maybe motorcycle touring or whatever they're doing. That's their focus. But they want to document it. They want good cameras to be able to take great pictures. But the picture part of it may not necessarily be the main focus of their endeavor. So, if that's the case, then spending a little bit less money on the cameras means I can spend more money on other things. And for a lot of people, that's important. I've always been a camera buff, so the quality of the cameras and the image quality and all that just like really high on my list of importance. But you know, when you talk, I was talking to a gal the other day I work with, and she wanted to buy a new digital camera, and I tried to talk to her about mirrorless and some other things, and none of that really just resonated with her. All she really wanted was that camera to take pictures of her family with, and she didn't really care about all the bells and whistles and all that, because she's not a photographer. She just wanted to take good pictures. So to kind of summarize all this, wrap it up, I think Micro Four Thirds has a big future still. I think it has a market that's strong and will continue to grow as their brand recognitions, both Panasonic and Olympus, or OM Digital Solutions, tends to improve. OM Digital Solutions is obviously making inroads into the outdoor market, and their name recognition is becoming better as we speak. I think that they're still, I mean, a lot of people have said, you know, they're, especially Panasonic, they're making full frame cameras, they're done with Micro Four Thirds, and yet this year they've introduced some cameras and lenses. And Olympus has lenses and stuff on their roadmap, cameras. I just saw an announcement today that the EP7 is going to be back in production. Actually, it's in production. It's going to be available to purchase very soon. As well as the OM10, I think it's, what is it, the Mark IV now? The OM10 is soon to be available in stores and online again. They've had some supply chain issues, but they're bringing these back. So even their commitment to the EP line, the pen line, the EP7, is still there. They're going to be back to producing it, and they're going to be selling it. So I think that it's real important that I think, you know, I'm happy if any camera manufacturer succeeds. I don't want to see anyone struggle. And I know the camera market in general has really gone way down since the, around 2010, 2012, when they were, you know, mirrorless cameras were coming out. The camera market was really booming. And sales since then are just really dropped for everybody. And yet, I think we have to look at that time back then as a real boom time. And we're probably back to something more around normal, or maybe a little below now. But I think that there's still enough sales for camera manufacturers to be able to produce cameras at a reasonable price. I know they seem high, but if you compare them to past prices on cameras going back to whenever, I mean, they're not high compared to those when you do the calculations for inflation. So, you know, I think they'll continue to be producing cameras that are really great. There's a huge market of camera users that are using, like I do, use older cameras that need to be supported with new products and lenses. And so, you know, my hope is that the entire camera industry thrives. I hate to see anyone pick on any other part of it. I mean, I like the Micro Four Thirds. To be honest, I've been thinking about a full frame camera for the sole purpose of being able to test vintage lenses. I want to be able to see what those lenses are, how they're performing out at the edges that I can't see on Micro Four Thirds. So I may buy a good used full frame camera. I think the cheapest thing I can do right now is one of the early A7 Sonys, or an A7 II. And so I may do that in the relatively near future, so that, again, just for the purpose of testing vintage lenses. So I don't want to see any part of the industry suffer. I want the whole industry to thrive, and to pick on some part of the industry because it's not your favorite, I think is silly. So, but I think it's just important to understand that Micro Four Thirds is doing fine, and reports of its death are greatly exaggerated. And I think we're going to see Olympus, OM Digital Solutions. I'll have a hard time changing that in my head. OM Digital Solutions and Panasonic are going to continue to thrive. And there's some other makers of Micro Four Thirds equipment, not in the still photography venue, but in, like, I think Blackmagic is still making some Micro Four Thirds video cameras and stuff. So I think, you know, it's an open source. That's the cool thing about Micro Four Thirds, is it's open source. So anyone that wants to make a Micro Four Thirds camera, they can adopt those standards and make a camera that has interchangeable lenses, and, you know, so that's kind of cool. Anyway, I just think that the Micro Four Thirds industry will continue to thrive, that we're going to see more products, more innovation, and keep in mind, as sensor technology gets better, using a small sensor becomes even more effective. So I know there's pluses and minuses, and there's always going to be some people that say, no, you need this or that. my thinking is if you really feel like you need full frame, why aren't you doing medium format? Same thing applies. Anyway, that's it. I hope Micro Four Thirds continues to do well, and I think it's doing well now. And I think that people that say that it's done may not have very good foresight, maybe. Not to pick on anybody in particular, but I think that if you were to talk to the people at Olympus, they would tell you that they have a bright future ahead. So I hope you enjoyed that. If you have any thoughts or comments, I would love to hear from you. Please don't hesitate to leave me a comment. I always appreciate you watching my videos. And as always, thanks for watching.